In this lesson, we're going to finish out the fender for our front forks. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the line tool again, and we're going to trace out just this piece here on our front fork fender. And so let's go ahead and grab our line tool and begin tracing this out. Now what I want to do is just trace out this back line here, and I'm just creating a gap between this front fender, or the front part of this fender, and the back part. So let's just click a couple of points in here, and I'm just going to go really roughly through this. And I'm going to make sure that I click a point just above that last one, and one in the middle, and then we're going to click a vertex below our starting vertex, and then we'll close the spline. Okay. Now I know that we've been using this technique quite a bit here, and I know you're probably getting antsy to learn a couple of the different modeling techniques, but we're going to get into those in the next lesson. I just find that this is very, very helpful with shapes like this. So let's go ahead and continue on by editing this line. So let's go to our vertex mode, and let's just edit this shape out. Okay, so we're going to right click and Bezier corner, and then we're just going to go vertex by vertex and shape this out. Okay. Now, like I said, this is just a great way to get these types of shapes where we've got really sharp corners like this, and we've got a lot of different angles and very smooth angles like this. This is just a really great way to build those types of objects. So, like I said, we're going to move on in the next lesson using polygons to build some certain objects. So just bear with me and stay patient. Alright, so we've got this object traced out here, so let's go ahead and create our spline cage, or our surface. And let me actually right click on this and change this to Bezier, because I want this line to be really, really smooth. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Now before we do, we've got this hard or sharp corner here, so let's go ahead and use our fillet tool to take care of that. So let's go to fillet, and we're just going to split this into two. So click and drag on that. There we go. We've got a nice little curve there. And if we need to adjust those vertices, we can do that. So I'm just going to move this up a little bit along with this one here. Alright, so now let's go ahead and refine this, because we've got an odd number of vertices here. So let's go to refine and make sure we check connect and linear. And now let's do that refine. And I'm going to go from this point to this one. And we're going to right click. Now I know that we don't have a vertex for this one to match up to, but we can create a new one. So let's just go ahead and use that refine again. Select this vertex and just make a new point right out here. And we'll right click to end that. Okay, so now we have this geometry. So let's go ahead and give this some depth. So we're going to switch to our perspective. And what I want to do is select these vertices right here. And I'm going to also select these on the outside. So we're just selecting this entire outside line. And let's move this over in the Y. Now I don't want to move this all the way out to the edge, because I want to give this a little bit of a rim here between the two fenders. Okay, so let's go ahead and mirror this line over to get the other side. So we're going to go ahead and hit mirror. Let me change the color of that so we can see it a little bit easier. Let's make it a lighter yellow. Maybe that'll help. There we go. We can see that just a little bit easier. So let's use our mirror tool, and we've already got those options set up, so we're just going to hit OK. And what we're going to do now is attach this side to this side, just like we've been doing. And then now we've got to weld that center line of vertices. So we're going to go to line and vertex, and let's select those vertices there. And we're going to go down to weld. Let's see if we can find it here. There it is. And we're going to hit weld. And now let's go ahead and apply that surface. So we're going to go down to our modifier list, go to our surface modifier, and apply that. And that's applied really nicely. Now I also want to gap the back side of this. So what I want to do is right click and do hide unselected. So that's just going to hide everything but my fender, or the front part of my fender here. So let's go ahead and go to our line, and just like we did last time, we're going to hit show end result, and vertex mode. And we're going to use that refine and linear connect. And let's go ahead and bridge this gap here. So we're going to select this first vertex and the second one here and right click. And let's try it one more time. I don't see a line that's been drawn there. There we go. So let's go ahead and do that again. Let's do refine and go all the way down the back side of this. And refine, vertex to vertex, and right click, and then we'll finally do the last one here. Vertex to vertex, and right click. Alright, so now we've bridged that gap there. So let's go ahead and right click and unhide all so we can see our geometry. And now that we're finished with this, what I like to do whenever I start to get a lot of the model finished, I like to go ahead and create some materials for this just for presentation purposes. So what I want to do is select all of these objects here. Let's turn off vertex mode. We have to turn off sub-object modes before we can select any other objects. So let's select these three objects, and what I want to do is actually change the color of this object. So let's go to this color swatch, and what I want to do is change this to black. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I want my wireframe to show up as black, and let me show you what I mean by that. So let's go ahead and go to our materials, and let's just apply a gray material to this. So I'm just going to drag in a standard, let me pull this up here, I'm just going to drag in a standard material, and I'm going to double click on it just so it's selected. And let me go ahead and minimize this a little bit further. And once I hit this assign material to selection, it's going to apply that gray material to my objects. Now, the reason I colored that black in the first place is because of my wireframe. So let me deselect this, and you can see this black wireframe now. So what this does is really sets off your presentation. It looks really nice, and I'm using this black line for contrast so I can see how this topology is actually being built. And whenever you are working on a project and your supervisor wants to see how the model is coming along, you present this to him and he can really see the topology and all the work that you've really put into your models. So this is just something that I like to do, and I would really encourage you to do the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next lesson, where we're actually going to go ahead and start getting into creating some polygons and create our front pivot of our concept bike.